Okay, there's the finished product, the ladder ball Ferris wheel. It turns pretty good. It's got ball bearings on each end there to help keep it going. So what I did was use a 3-inch PVC drain cap. Hole saw, drilled out, well, this one was scrap because I didn't center it exactly, but once you get it centered up, you can cut that out and you use a 1-inch ID bearing, and I'm using 3/4 inch PVC. So to get that down, I just put the PVC on the lathe and turned it so that it had a outside diameter of exactly 1 inch, maybe a hundredth or a thousandth less than that, so that you could slide it on. And I just I used a piece of 1-inch PVC to slide over the end and tap that down into place. There's the scoring arms. I tried painting. I primed it, painted it, clear coated it. I'm not sure how well that's going to hold up. I might end up just using different colored electrical phase tape. The risers are 17 inches and the crossbar is 22.5. Those are all glued up, and that'll stay free floating of the hub here to break it down for transport. So once I turned the end of this down to 1 inch so that I could press that bearing on, I use 5-minute epoxy. Once I got that bearing in place, I split the middle of that bearing. As far as the cap placement, I put 5-minute epoxy on the outside and I put 5-minute epoxy on the inside. Then I used 1/2 inch male pipe thread by 3/4 inch slip fittings every 72 degrees. The outside diameter of that 3-inch cap is 11 inches, so every 2 3/16 of an inch I drilled a hole. I used a Forstner bit to drill a hole big enough to, and then I just used a 1/2 inch pipe nipple, and I used a 1/2 inch pipe nipple to thread each of these. Just kind of forced it in there until it got in centered, and now these will screw all the way in. Pretty important, don't install these until you 5-minute epoxy the inside there, because it's really hard to get your epoxy in there with those threads sticking all the way in. I haven't screwed these all the way in yet. So the overall dimensions on the center bar are 28 inches end to end, and then I turned down 1.5 inches on either side. So inside to inside is 25 inches, and that leaves enough out here to where, and now that's a little bit smaller from putting it on the lathe, so you got a loose fit there. I just put about 1 wrap of duct tape around that, and it was enough to hold that sturdy. I'll show you that on the other one over here. So you can kind of see the, well, it's Gorilla Tape, but and then that'll just slide in and out there. Base is 24 there, so it's 48 inches of 24-inch pieces, and then you got what, 3/4 inches of makeup on each fitting, and I'll get a measurement on this upright here. I think it's somewhere around 36, but hold on a second. The uprights there are 35.5 inch overall length. I've glued this one in and I just left it loose there, so for transport you can just break it down and it leaves a pretty flat folding piece. I think in hindsight I'll probably, if I make another one of these, I would glue these onto I would glue these onto the end of the hub, the centerpiece, and then make that the slip fitting that pops off. That way you're not fighting this so much every time you put the thing together. That's really about it. That's my 5-spoke Ferris wheel ladder ball. If you try to build one yourself, good luck. Take care. The cross pieces on the base are 27.5 overall length. So again, these side pieces, or these front and rear pieces, are 27.5. Each of these are 24. There is the my version of a Ferris wheel ladder ball. 6 different scoring options. You've got the 5 spokes plus the center hub. I'm not really sure what the scoring's going to be on it yet. Might be some positives and some negatives. Once I try to throw at it, we'll see how hard the center bar is to hit. If that's one of the more difficult ones, then we'll jack up the score on that. But I've seen some postings online where they've talked about you know, a +3, a +2, a +1, a -2, a minus, I don't know. It's all over the place. I guess it's all up to how you want to set it up. But once I get the other one finished, we'll have a game out in the yard and see how it works and how we think we should score it, and we'll give you an update once we get to playing. So we talked earlier about turning this 28-inch center spoke on a lathe. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this one down on this end. I just had to build a little homemade center post because the one that goes with it doesn't center it up very well. This side certainly centers better than that. So what I do is I measure back 1.5 inches. I mark it, then I turn it, then I'll take it out, flip it over, and turn it again. Gotta adjust my tool rest there. So what I'll do is I'll get that line cleaned up real nice with a skew chisel, and then for removing material, what works best really is a small bowl gouge. And I'll get my micrometer and we'll see what the exact OD is right now, and then we'll set it for 1 inch so that we can continue to measure it as we take material away. You can see there I'm starting to get some material removal, and I've got my mic set exactly at 1 inch, but I'm still not even close to where I need to be. So, but I do have a pretty nice edge right here. It's not absolutely critical that this be, you know, probably this first 1/2 inch right here you're going to want relatively smooth faced so that bearing sits square. The rest of this out here is not really paramount that it has to be perfect, but we want to try to turn it down as symmetrical as possible to 1 inch. I'm going to continue removing material. Okay, so now I've got this end turned down. Not a great edge on it, but it looks square enough that it'll seat that bearing. You see again, I'm set at 1 inch. So all the way down it'll fit, and then doesn't fit there, so that bearing will nest against that edge really well. I'm going to flip it over and do the other side. So now you can see I've got both sides turned down, 1.5 inches turned down to that edge. Again, overall length is 28 and 1.5 inches turned down on that end. I wish I would have waited to press those bearings on just to show you that part of the build, but not really that important to see that. But this, you could probably turn that down by hand with sandpaper too, but it just seems like it would take quite a bit of time. That's it. So I'm using a 3/4 inch Forstner bit. That's giving me my 5 even holes. I found it's a little tough to use. I'm using a 1/2-inch pipe nipple to get it started there. So what I do is use a round file. I'm just using some 60 grit sandpaper. Just open it up a bit more. Helps get that pipe nipple started. And then I try to watch from the inside. It's kind of tough to thread into this round piece evenly. It has a tendency to want to jump off to one side or another. Once I get it started and it looks like it's going in relatively square, I'll just grab it with some channel locks. Run it in a fair amount. Back that out. And I just kind of clean up some of that plastic around the edge. And then your nipple should thread in relatively easy in the start, and then you got to finish running it in with channel locks. But that's how I went about attaching all of those. Okay, so again, I just put, you can barely see it in there. I just used about a 3/4 inch wide piece of Gorilla Tape. You can see where I tore it. I get about 1.5 wraps around is enough to make that snug. And then of course just press them in from both sides, and you see they spin nice and freely, nice and smooth. Then it's just a matter of finishing up your scoring bars and then pushing those in. I've given some thought to maybe either widening that out or probably just sanding the ends of these down. I've taped them at 3/4 inch for the makeup when you press them in, but it's a really snug fit, and I don't want to beat the thing up every time I assemble and disassemble it. So it might be worthwhile to get a thin or a skinny bolt with a nut that would go all the way through, and just sand down a little bit on that edge where it's supposed to press in, so it'll slip in easier, and then you can just run a little nut and a bolt through there, or maybe a collarless pin or something like that. Still a work in progress, but it's coming along. That's it.